Running a speech contest. All right, we'll talk about that. All right, I mentioned before that there are a number of people that the contest chair must line up ahead of time. So I'll just go through some of that again. The contest master, the person who's actually going to be the master of ceremonies for the contest. The chief judge, who's going to run the judging. The Zoom master, we talked about that. Also a sergeant at arms. You need that if you're going to have a speech evaluation contest, because this person keeps an eye on the contestants while they're waiting to speak and other people are speaking before them. You need a test speaker, again, for the speech evaluation contest. And you need judges. You should have at least 5 judges. The rules basically say you should have 5 judges plus a tie-breaking judge, so you need 6 really. But for clubs, it says if practical. So if it's not quite practical to find that many, you can make do with 3 or 4 if you have to. But you would like to have 5 judges plus the tie-breaking judge. Timers, you need at least 1. Ideally, you should have 2. And ballot counters, you should have 2 of those as well. So this means that the contest chair has to ask a bunch of people to do things for him or for her. And these are all the people you have to line up. So let's assume that you've done all of that. And now you're going to actually run the contest. So what do you do? Well, these are the main elements, or the main flow, if you will, of the contest. So you start out with briefings of contestants and judges. Then there's the actual speech contest where the contestants speak. Then after that, there's the judging and ballot counting, and the contestant interviews come after that. And after all that, you announce the winners. And finally, there's some work to be done after the meeting with mailing notifications and certificates of various kinds. So we'll talk about all of that. All right, the briefings. There are 2 briefings that have to happen. There's a contestants briefing by the contest master and a judge's briefing by the chief judge. Here I say allow 30 minutes before contests. Usually we allow 30 minutes if it's an area or division level contest. In a club contest, maybe you can make do with a little less. But this is something that should be done before the contest actually starts, so you can actually do it well ahead if you like. Now, what happens in the contestants briefing? Well, this is conducted by the contest chair or the contest master, and it explains the contest rules. So the person giving it should have read the rule book and know what the rules are. It explains the timing. The speech evaluation contest requires each contestant to speak for 2 to 3 minutes. If they speak for less than 1 minute and 30 seconds or more than 3 minutes and 30 seconds, they're disqualified. So they need to understand that. And for the international speech contest, the speech should be 5 to 7 minutes. If they go under 6 minutes and 30 seconds, I'm sorry, 4 minutes and 30 seconds, or above 7 minutes and 30 seconds, they get disqualified. And so they need to understand that. There's a waiting room for the speech evaluation contestants. And so the idea is that no speech evaluation contestant can see another contestant's evaluation before they give their own. Once they give their own, they can look at the rest of them, because they can't change their own then anymore. But there is a separate waiting room for them in an in-person contest. That's a physical separate room that you have to have. And in the case of an online contest, it's going to be a breakout room in the Zoom sense. Another thing you have to do is to determine the speaking orders. You have to have some way of randomizing who speaks in what position in the contest. So each contest has its own speaking order, right? So that's something you have to decide at that point. There might be other issues you want to cover, what happens in the case of protests, for example. And also there are some forms you need to get. The contestants have to sign a form of eligibility and originality. They also have to provide a biographical information form, and all this stuff can be done ahead of time. So that really ought to be done before you even get to the contest. But at the briefing, you make sure you have all that stuff. The judge's briefing is conducted by the chief judge. It explains the judging rules to the judges. It explains the judging forms. So for each type of contest, there's a different judging form, and the judges should be familiar with how that form works. So that's part of the judge's briefing. It's also important to explain that there could be various kinds of bias that a judge needs to avoid. Obviously, any kind of club bias or a know this person bias, or that person gave a good speech or lousy speech last time, that should never bias you. You should only judge the current speech by the contestant. And also, it's important to keep in mind that if you have 4 contestants, there's a tendency for the first and the last contestants to be remembered the best. And so you want to avoid any bias in favor of those speaking positions. So the chief judges make sure the contestants, that the judges understand all of these issues. And the chief judge also briefs the timers and the ballot counters on their duties. All right, so let's say that the briefings have been done. Now we're going to get over to the actual contest. So what is the order of events in the contest? Well, so the basic idea is that this test speaker goes first, then the speech evaluation contest, and then the international speech contest. Now, if you have 2 clubs in the same event, then you need to have the test speaker first, the club 1 speech evaluation contest, then the club 2 speech evaluation contest, then club 1 international speech contest, and club 2 international speech contest. It's important to keep in mind that the contestants in club 1 only compete against other contestants in club 1, not against anyone in club 2. So these are separate contests. So you need to understand that, and of course the judges need to understand that as well. All right, how do you start the contest? Well, if you're the contest master, you start by introducing yourself. I am Bert Beander. This is the speech contest for the greatest club in the world club. And the winners of these contests go on to the Area 99 contest, and you explain all this stuff. You announce the speaking order of the contestants so that the audience knows what that order is and the judges know what the order is. All members should be muted except for the current speaker during the contest, and so the Zoom master has to keep an eye on that. And the video, when actually speaking, the video should be on only for the contest master, the timer, and the speaker. And this is something that the Zoom master can arrange as well. There is a 2022 contest chair sample script document that explains exactly how you do all of that stuff. That's one of the resources I mentioned earlier. But that's something that you want to follow if you're the contest master. The speech evaluation contest, this is the sequence of events. You have a test speaker that speaks for 5 to 7 minutes. After that, you have the 5 minutes of silence when the contestants can formulate their evaluations. But this 5 minutes of silence can happen in a separate breakout room along with Sergeant at Arms. So they do that. Now, in the meantime, the contest master can interview the test speaker. So that's, you don't have to, but that's one thing you can do to fill that 5 minutes span of time. Anyway, after that, the contestants are returned to the main Zoom room one at a time. The contest master checks that the contestant is ready. With technology, there's always something going wrong, right? So we want to check that the video is on and the contestant is unmuted, and the contest master says, contestant John Doe, please turn on your video, unmute yourself, and then when you're ready, say ready. So if the contestant says ready and everyone can hear it, then you're good to go. The contest master then announces the contestant's name twice. For speech evaluation, all you say is John Doe, John Doe. That's it. No other introduction is done. Contestant speaks for 2 to 3 minutes, and then there's 1 minute of silence after that, so that the judges have a little time to tally up their scores for that one contestant. Then at the end, after the last contestant, you add 1 more minute of silence for the judges to tally up their forms and to decide who came in first, second, and third. The judges then email the ballots to the chief judge and the ballot counters. So that's how the speech evaluation contest works. The international speech contest is sort of similar, but of course there's no test speaker. So for each contestant, the contest master checks that the contestant is ready, unmuted, video's on, you can hear the person. And then the contest master announces the name of the contestant, the title of the speech, and name of the contestant. So for example, John Doe, my summer vacation, John Doe. And that's all you say. And by doing it that way, the level of introduction that every contestant gets is the same. Contestant then speaks for 5 to 7 minutes, and then there's a minute of silence for the judge to tally up the scores for that contestant. And then at the end, we have 1 more minute of silence for the judges. And then again, as before, the judges email their ballots to the chief judge and the ballot counters. So that's how the International Speech Contest works. To conclude the contest, for one thing, make sure that any judges can complete their ballots, email them to chief judge and ballot counter. You might need to give them an extra minute or 2 to have time to do all that. The chief judge and ballot counters then meet in a separate breakout room, and they tally the ballots and prepare a list of winners. So typically we allow about 20 minutes for this. It depends, you know, if you have a club contest and there's only 1 contest and you only have a few contestants, you may not need so much time. And the more judges you have, the more time you need also. So for a club contest, 20 minutes might be more than you need. Anyway, in the meantime, the contest master interviews the contestants. So if you're going to leave 20 minutes for the ballot counting, and you have, let's say, 5 contestants, that gives you about 4 minutes for each one. So you can ask the timer to give you 4 minutes for each contestant. Anyway, the chief judge emails the list of winners to the contest master when it's available. And then the contest master announces the winners, 3rd place, 2nd place, and first place, 3rd, 2nd, and 1st for each contest. And that pretty much does it. Now, after the contest, could be later that day, could be the next day, there's some paperwork to be done. The contest master needs to send the notification of contest winner form to the area director. The area director needs to know who won in each area at each club contest, and those are, of course, the people who compete in the area contest, so they need to know that information. You should also email certificate of participation to all contestants, and you should email the speech contest 1st place, 2nd place, and 3rd place certificates to the winners. So that's a little paperwork to wrap it up at the end.